So what do you guys think about fucking Trump getting reelected?
Dude. Oh my fucking god. So it didn't surprise me one bit, really. You know, I wasn't shocked. I kind of felt like this was exactly where the country has been headed, especially given Kamala's like super like lackluster like Bush Republican kind of platform that she was running. The fact that they were competing for attention from Israel, essentially, it's just it makes sense. It makes sense that this went this way.
Yeah, I've been hearing every podcast takes. Everybody's got some good, just hot takes on the situation. Not even hot takes, just takes, and saying like it makes no sense to run as a Republican when there's already Republicans. That's why you lose.
Yeah,
But of course, all the podcasts I listen to are leftist podcasts. They're all saying vaguely the same thing, which is the Democrats abandoned the working class, just like Bernie was saying, although very hypocritically because he was supporting them the whole time they did it.
yeah. No, he put out a video, didn't he? Like just before the election, like this is why you should vote for Kamala, even though she's very clearly aiding and abetting a genocide currently.
Yeah,
It was just,
also was
it kind of,
was the most working class president ever. But then
yeah,
after they lose, and he's like, yeah, they abandoned the working class. It's like, okay, bro, like,
yeah, very. He's already sold out. He sold out a long time ago, in my opinion.
There's no reason to listen to Bernie anymore. I don't
Yeah.
know why anyone continued listening to him after 2016, and then they tried in 2020 that he got rat fucked twice, and then I don't know why. And then he immediately, the second time he got rat fucked back in 2020, he like immediately endorsed Biden, like immediately. So
Right.
he's not. I don't know why anyone listens to him. He clearly doesn't have any actual principles, which is that's the whole like fraud squad. Basically, they're all like that. She's gonna run. AOC is gonna run. This is a long-standing prediction that I've had. Is AOC is gonna run for president in as soon as she's old enough. I don't know how old she is. I don't know if she's 35 yet.
I want to
Pretty
say
sure.
early 30s.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's not old enough, but she's going to run either in the next election or the election afterwards. And she will be running to the right of Kamala and to the right of Donald Trump. And she will have completely sold out. She'll be a full neocon war hawk with this sort of like quirky leftist girl aesthetic that she's going to have going.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
prediction as far as what's going to happen there, because she's not getting anywhere near a presidential candidacy until she completely sells out, which she already has, but she's got a little bit of a way to go.
Oh yeah.
You know?
It's kind of shades of gray, really, at this point
can see
between
it.
the Democrats and Republicans.
The way you describe it, though, Jared, I could actually see that happening, and it's like as scary as that is, like worse and more, I guess, like cynical things have come true. It's just in the time that I've been like paying attention really closely over the last like 8 years or so.
I think that, I mean, I just recently saw the video of her. She was like speaking at like a big sort of thing where it was before she had I think either became a senator or whatever, and she was like, yeah, there's no way that we can really survive through capitalism. And it's like, you have dropped off so hard, you know. She really did sell out.
Hate to see it. Only if only anyone could have seen that coming, like the tankies. It's wild how much like I've been trying to think of like how many situations over the last couple decades the tankies have ended up being right about. Because you can go back to like the last time Syria was involved, and everybody has been like digging on Obama and Hillary Clinton for trying to get involved, and now creating like that situation that they created in Libya. Where the Yankees were correct again when they were saying that Assad was gassing his own people in Syria. It was actually the U.S. The U.S. armed and funded "quote unquote" moderate rebels. And then when it comes to Ukraine, the tankies were correct. That shit's going to end in probably about February, unless like Trump just lets his total neocon establishment. Because that's the other thing I'm seeing in all the news today, talking about current events.
Oh yeah.
Right? Trump is just packing his cabinet with the exact neocons that you would expect. Not necessarily Mike Pompeo, but people just like him.
Like a Marco Rubio, one of them. Trump is, you know, he's really filling it up with as many people who will toe his like super fascist, like Christo fascist line as hard as he can.
You guys want to make any predictions? I still think Ukraine is going to be ending soon. Like even with the neocons who would rather not see that happen in his cabinet, I still think that his nationalism and his ability to like his just absolute need to save face will cause him to say, like to try and like end that quickly because he just feels like it's a bad look, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence. I feel like I feel like it could be dragged out for another like 10 years, potentially 10, 15 years.
Oof.
Just because like capitalism can just run itself into absolute destitution, and especially with like imperialist warfare going on between two imperialist powers, it can just get bloodier and bloodier and bloodier, and we'll just see further permutations of like sheer violence between the two, and like even harder fascist movements within Ukraine's government itself, you know? So, I mean, it could just intensify for a long time.
Yeah.
I saw a Ukrainian general talking recently about how, because basically Ukraine's military, it's conventional military, they're going to lose, right? They're not going to win. They've already basically lost. It's just, they're like losing massive amounts of territory every day. And it's just a matter of time before they run out of manpower for like their conventional military. But the Ukrainian Zelensky and there was a general that came out recently and said, yeah, so if we lose the war, we're just going to become an insurgency. So it'll just be like a insurgency, but instead of like the Taliban or ISIS or whatever, it'll be neo-Nazis.
That's what
it'll be like,
yeah,
it won't be a conventional war, which will mean that Russia will be like stuck with having to fight them for like, as Joseph said, like for decades and decades and decades, and won't be able to beat them because you can't
with NATO backing, you know.
History shows us that conventional like militaries can't beat insurgency forces. They just can't. Like they'll eventually lose the willpower to continue fighting.
That is the most realistic scenario that could go on for another 10 years or so. I would just hope that Russia would take a cue from China and start like re-educating them like they did with the Uyghurs. Like if you have this insurgent force that the US is obviously stoking to cause destabilization in their territories because they hate you, re-educate those people, give them jobs, teach them to stop being fucking Nazis. It does work.
Yeah,
that's what they did in Crimea. Like because they've had the Russians have controlled Crimea for 10 years now, and the Russians spent billions and billions and billions of dollars developing Crimea, and now they have a better standard of living than they did prior to Russian control of Crimea.
Hell yeah.
So, and that's all it takes. Like, there's no insurgency in fucking Crimea, and that's been 10 years. But also part of that is the majority of Crimeans actually wanted to be part of Russia, which is another thing that people tend to forget, especially like liberals when they talk about what happened. They forget that there were so many Western-backed polls and Western observers during that referendum that said, yeah, this was legit. It was like 80% of people were like, yeah, we'd rather be in Russia than in Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, like when you're caught between a rock and a hard place, it's like, you know, do we want? I mean, you know, like multipolarity is a whole other issue, a whole other discussion. But you know, pretty much anything going against NATO is relatively better, I think, just personally, like not even to put like a moral judgment on it, but just like geopolitically speaking, you know, Ukraine is just a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Russia's good or anything like that. I mean, obviously, it's Russia's just I said it before, Russia's just an oil company pretending to be a government for the most part, you know, and obviously it's an imperialist and capitalist power, but like, you know, it's anything that is ruining NATO is fine by my books.
I cannot disagree with that.
Capitalism can never stay home. It goes abroad. The ordinary people simply paid the cost of empire.